My face currently feels like I've been run through by Tom Stewart.
Puts it to the top of the square. Oh, beautiful little fist in there by Dale. Crucial centimetre moments.
He definitely has a bit of the Belcho spirit. As I have a bit of the Belcho spirit.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast that took it a little too literally this week when the coach told us to take the opposition by the balls at the halftime break. Mm-hmm. You are listening to The Back Pocket. I am joined, as always, by Alistair, not concussed, just a migraine Hampton.
I always have a migraine.
It's been round 20.
It has been.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm alright. I'm tired. Football takes a lot out of you, and then you have to go straight back to work.
You do.
And then you have to get on the podcast.
And then sometimes you watch the Ashes until 1 a.m. to watch Australia lose.
I'm not that dumb.
Yeah, I am. I saw someone the other day, in all sincerity tweet, a whole bunch of people on here wanting Sam Kerr to play with a fucked calf who are really concerned about Aaliyah. It's like, yeah, because you can't get brain trauma from a calf injury. Like
you can irreversibly damage it.
Yeah, for sure.
Not the same.
No, like you can live a life with a bung calf.
Yikes. Is that what we're leading into, or are we going into votes?
No, let's go into votes. Who's your one?
My one goes to Nick Vlosten.
Fair enough. In my special mentions,
he gets my vote because he held that back line together in a game where everyone else failed.
Yes.
He had 20 disposals, 8 marks, 15 intercept possessions, 6 pressure acts, 9 rebound 50s, 3 1%ers, and 350 metres gained. Not his fault. Petty kicked 6. He did his best. There were holes everywhere.
I mentioned Petty kicking 6 on you. Yeah, it was strange. They looked like they were in control at halftime, and then they just kind of went, "Oh, okay, that was fun."
It's a bad loss.
Let Melbourne just roll away with that. It's crazy how Melbourne just keep having these really uninspiring wins lately, but they're still rolling along and they just locked their spot in the top 4 away. So it's
one of those things where teams only have to turn it on for a quarter or two to win, and those are usually the best sides.
Absolutely. So. And Gawn, his second half was insane.
Yeah, his last quarter
I think he had
especially.
100% time on ground again in the last quarter. That's 2 weeks in a row now, where he's been probably best on in those last quarters. So I don't think Grundy's coming back anytime soon.
Doubt it.
My one was to Bailey Dale.
Who
had 37 disposals, 11 of which were rebounds, 9 intercepts, 31 kicks.
That's a lot of kicks.
So he had 793 metres gained with 0 bounces, which is insane. He had 8 marks, 4 intercept marks, and 11 pressure acts. Really good game. Probably the Bulldogs' best.
Bailey Dale's another one in my list. Is like, I can never tell if they're a proper defender or not.
Yeah, this week I felt like he was. I know he took I think he kicked a goal and took a flying shot at the end, but I think it was just a desperation style stuff in that last quarter when Cheetah got on top. That's become a serious rivalry. Like, those games are consistently good football. One vote, Bailey Dale.
Cool. Well, I'm going to mention my non-one vote.
Right, okay.
I wanted to give a vote to Nick Haynes, who came on as the sub.
Can
you give a vote to a sub?
It's 2 games he's been really good as a sub. Elliot Yeo was also the defensive super sub on the weekend. Like, both knocking that ball out of bounds on the wing and that intercept mark he took. They probably don't win that game without him getting subbed on. So, good stuff.
It would have been close. I think, regardless of him being there, they would have won it because North Melbourne don't know how to man up in pressure situations.
Horrible. And also they probably don't sub off Bazzo, who was their only key defender.
True.
And Larky wouldn't have kicked 3 goals in the last quarter.
So my 2 votes goes to Will Powell from the Gold Coast Suns.
Totally fair. He was really good.
28 disposals, 6 marks, 9 intercept possessions, 11 pressure acts, 444 metres gained, 7 rebound 50s, and played on dangerous smalls. So he defended well and he kept giving them drive. That's why he gets 2 votes from me.
Absolutely.
Easy done.
My 2 votes was to Alex Pearce.
Fair enough. I should just go ahead and say that he's my 3.
3, yep. He did a number on Hawkins.
Yep.
I know Hawkins kicked 2 goals. Pearce won 3 out of 4 contested one-on-ones, and winning any against Hawkins is usually a massive feat. He had 6 spoils, 8 pressure acts, 2 tackles and 6 rebounds, but more importantly, 8 marks, all of which were intercepts, and 18 disposals, 15 of which were intercepts, and 10 contested. He slid down a bit for me because he had a few times where umpiring decisions gone the other way. It might have resulted in a goal, but you have to get lucky in those situations, and he put his body on the line consistently all day. It's his best game for the year by a
stretch.
And yeah, without his game, I think Geelong probably come back and win that in that last quarter. They were storming over them.
I think he played really smart footy in the last. I think he and a couple of other players along that back line really held it together and did the smart thing every single chance. They didn't let anything slip, which is the main reason they won that game, to be
Yeah,
honest.
and they've really, I think their defensive style really clogs up Geelong's smash it forward and run game. That's 3 in a row they've beaten Geelong, 2 of which are in Geelong. Jordan Clark has a 3-0 record against Geelong since leaving.
That annoy you?
No, I just think I'd love to know if there's any other players in the comp right now with that kind of record. Because the only teams that have a streak against Geelong are Freo and GWS, and it would have to be players that have played in all of those games. So, Hayden Young, maybe, who did a great job on Dangerfield, came out of the back line.
Yeah, that was surprising.
So I guess I'll roll into my 3, since that was yours. My 3 was Jacob Wiedering.
Okay, Jacob Wiedering's my 4.
Your 4? Awesome.
This is easy week.
Taking care of business week in, week out, Waiters. 6 spoils, 5 defensive half pressure acts, had 1 one-on-one contest and won it.
He hasn't lost a defensive one-on-one in a month.
Yeah, he's playing great footy. 18 touches, 9 of which were rebounds, 10 of which were intercepts, 11 marks, 6 intercepts, 2 contested. But it was just the way he went about it. He marshalled that back line. The talls probably had more effect on the game than the smalls, but still really didn't have much damage. Collingwood's midfield was forced to kick a lot of their goals. A great game again from Wiedering. He's just in incredible form at the moment. Zach Merritt's words last week about thinking he's the best defender in the comp, or one-on-one defender, looking more and more accurate by the week.
I still think there's someone you could claim that might be better, but I think Wiedering's form and the fact that you said there 2 talls, a couple of talls kick goals there at the end, I think that's down to the change in Lewis Young for Brodie Kemp.
Yeah.
Carlton are losing a few more goals to talls, but the run and carry and game sense is much better. So I think that's a trade-off most teams would take, to be honest.
I agree. I think it's interesting. I was thinking about it earlier when I was vacuuming the car that early this season you gave your rundown of what was going wrong with Carlton, and I gave some reasons why it might not have been that bad. And now here we are looking a lot better. And I had Dad say to me that I was a bit kind with the reasons I gave. And now here we are 6 wins later. I'm feeling very happy with my assessment that it wasn't as bad as it was, because they look like they're set for finals at the moment pretty comfortably. So and anything can go this year, but they've locked themselves at the top of that bracket of teams fighting for it.
Well, it's all down to that ball movement improving, is what I was talking about, mids kicking goals, which they have been. So,
and the forwards kicking goals too, which is
most important.
Sam Taylor is my 4.
Okay, Sam Taylor's my 5, so
it's
that's easy.
5, cool. So we'll roll to my 5 in a second. But Sam Taylor, no surprise, Sam featured again. He is in a wild amount of form.
My note here just says he's the best defender in the game.
He is. And I think we had that discussion earlier in the year when he got injured. Like back in round 4 or something, we were talking about is he the best defender in the comp. Yeah. The answer is definitely yes.
Yes.
14 spoils, 11 pressure acts. All 8 of his marks were intercepts. 4 of them were contested. He had 18 disposals, and 15 of those were intercepts. He had 5 score launches from defensive 50 and gave Norton a bath. He's good. He's really good.
Yeah,
he's a lock for All-Australian despite the fact that he missed, 6 games.
Yeah, but that happens.
We saw it happen with Stewart last year. He's making it. Which leads me to my 5, which I think you were looking confused for, and it's Nick Newman.
Okay.
If not for a teammate kicking a bag, he was best on ground by a long way, in my opinion. He pissed off Collingwood all day in
which
the
is
best
great.
Kind of way.
The Mason Cox footage is good.
Like I said, he's just the right side of the dickhead line. And he had 25 disposals at 85, 11 of which were contested, 9 were intercepts, and 5 rebounds. Despite having just 1 inside 50, he had 5 score involvements and 3 score launches. No disposals or contested defensive one-on-ones, but he had 7 tackles and 20 pressure acts, and provided my favourite moment of the match, which was Mason Cox pretending like he didn't know who he was and taking his number before he went to the bench to get subbed off, as Newman had 18 more touches and marshalled the rest of the game. He is in really good form. I feel like you leaving him out this week makes out for me leaving him out last week, so we'll just balance those votes across the 2.
Easy. It's one of those ones where if you actually picked an All-Australian team with positions, you need your lockdown defender, you're probably picking Newman.
It's like a couple of years ago, it was probably Buse. It's Newman now. He causes headaches for smalls all across the comp. Collingwood did not find it easy getting into that forward line, and he was just pissing everyone off in the best way. So
a grub in the right way.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he never takes it too far.
All right. Well, that's a wrap.
You gave 8 votes to Carlton players, Jack. You're so biased.
Yeah, I gave all of my votes to players from 3 games.
That's true.
Which I couldn't look past it though.
I didn't want to give a vote to Haynes because that would have been 2 from 1. So
I almost gave a vote to Mac Andrew. He was really, really good. He deserved the rising. I said it to you during the game. I said he's going to get it this week, despite how good Hewitt was for West Coast again. Andrew, in a massive game against Brisbane, was brilliant.
One of the best wins of their career, I reckon.
Does not take a backward step. And my other special mention was Brandon Zerk-Thatcher. Despite a few moments he had, which probably let him down in situations, he was really good again.
He was out of his depth.
Yeah.
But
I think he's really getting there.
he battles.
And some support for him, potentially, is our favourite thing to say every week. Don't delist to forward and to try them in defence. Essendon put Sam Wiedemann in the back line this week. He was nearly best on ground. They got belted by Sydney. He had 25 disposals, 13 intercepts, 5 intercept marks and 7 spoils.
Be interesting to see how he goes in a more balanced game where it's not being pumped in there.
Yeah, absolutely. But a really good game from him. But their backline's probably one of their strengths at the moment.
Yeah, they need keys. I mean, Harrison Jones is in and out of the side due to fitness, not form. But Stringer's all over the place. Tip and Woody's never fit.
It's the spot he was in that they need players in, not the other way around. We have a big debut for Adelaide this week. And I say big not only because love a key defender debuting, but also because I don't think I've seen a larger debutant in my life.
How tall is he?
James Borlase, or Borlase, I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
We'll find out.
Key defender. And if you haven't seen him yet and you're listening to this podcast, go to Adelaide's Twitter because he is massive. He is 192 centimetres, which is not tall for a key defender, but he's 101 kilos. His official player sponsor is apparently Truck and Car Brake Service, which makes sense because he is an absolute chassis of a man. He could be an interesting matchup against Casbolt this week, being that size, only a couple of kilos lighter. He has a Sandford Premiership captain dad and a 3-time netball world champion mum. So some serious breeding stock there. But massive unit, like genuinely large lad.
He's a wide lad.
Can't imagine how big he's going to be when he grows up. That's terrifying. I think he weighed in at like 95 kilos at his draft combine.
That's not a child.
Right? It's terrifying. He was born in 2002, Alistair. How does that make you feel?
Sad, mostly.
Oh.
He's 20.
Yeah, that's a big boy.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking he was 18, so he's got a few years on that.
Didn't even make it into my write-up about Adelaide earlier this year because I just didn't think he was going to debut with the keys they had down there. But yeah, look, I'm looking forward to it. Like I say, Casbolt's a really good matchup for a key defender that size. So, probably expect Hinge would take King, but we'll see.
We'll see.
I wrote topics and then it just said concussion.
Shouldn't laugh,
That's a
Jack.
mess going on right now. I don't know how the AFL handle it.
I think the first thing to say is, man, it fucking sucks that Max Lynch has to retire at 24.
Yes, absolutely. We just talked about him last week on the podcast.
Was it last week?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
It
I
was
think
a couple
so.
of weeks ago.
Maybe 2 weeks, yeah.
Because you said you were listening to a Max Lynch podcast, right?
I was, yeah. Well, no,
okay.
he was just a guest on one episode.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. See, now I remember Max Lynch.
Yeah, there you go.
Just probably don't remember him because he's played 11 games and had 9 concussions.
Yeah, it's shocking.
But no, that's bad. Not good.
Yeah,
Terrible.
and like he was saying that he's loved this year that he's been able to do some work with the women's team and doing some assistant coaching and development stuff. But he even said like that he was happy to get into a routine, and he started saying that he felt a bit lost when he didn't have a routine, and then he kind of backtracked onto it. He said he felt a bit lost because his concussions were so bad at first that like he wasn't sure whether it was the lack of a routine or how bad he was going.
Yeah.
So the fact that he like was able to talk that candidly about it shows obviously how bad it has gotten, that it's just kind of a part of his life.
And it's best to stop now.
Absolutely. I saw the speech he gave to the team. It's just really composed. So I hope he has a future in coaching and development because he's clearly a much-loved figure. He was a much-loved figure at Collingwood. I think a lot of those boys are still in touch with him. He's one of those players. So we'll see how that goes. And then obviously, yeah, the other one is, I don't know what the AFL do about Port. It's really funny that I think any other week, Tuke Miller grabbing Zorko by the nuts in a tackle would be getting so much more media had there not been 2 players who were definitely concussed, both allowed to go back on. And now both are in concussion protocols and missing this week.
They failed a test a day later.
Yeah, so they just couldn't find the SCAT5 test for some reason. They didn't take 15 minutes either. The AFL mandates that. So considering they gave Richmond a $100,000 fine for breaching a COVID protocol, not even like a big one,
bigger.
This has to be a massive slap.
They have an independent reviewer at the ground, I've learnt, that tells people, and if they are flagged, they have to do that test, and they didn't do it.
They didn't do it. That's, not good. And the only other one I can think of this year was the Cosy Pickett into Bailey Smith,
Yeah.
and that wasn't. And I mean, that was because it wasn't flagged, and they argued that it hit his shoulder. But I feel like even then you should be doing it. But like this one was,
Take the precaution.
You watch that video, you watch that footage,
They're-
and
they're-
they clash heads, and they're both out before they hit the ground.
Yeah, they're in midair, gone. And if it was the first time Port Adelaide had done something, maybe you could forgive them. But
Yeah,
it's
who
the
were you saying
third.
it was last time? It was Willem Drew or
No, Butters and someone else collided.
yeah.
And then a few years ago, someone was totally concussed,
And that is-
and they put them back on. And then also Sam Mays in the
Mays, that's who you said it
VFL
was. Yep. Oh, in the
was, VFL.
Sample.
Sample was, he's from Victoria, sorry. In the Sample was knocked out, put back on the field with a bandaged head, and he subbed himself out of the game. He said, I can't. And he
not
sat on
good.
the bench.
as part
And
of
they
this-
played him next week, I think.
They were showing the like goal of the round contenders, which Frederick should win because it's been established that pocket he kicked it from in Geelong is basically impossible to slot them from. But some people saying that not many key forwards could do what Tex did. And it's like he stepped around a man on the mark. One, a lot of key forwards could do that. Two, Aaliyah was zonked. Like I feel like I could have stepped around Aaliyah on the mark in the second half of that game.
It's the same Aaliyah at the start of the game. What are you talking about?
Retirements, a few of them come out this week. We've got Zeeble, which is, I think, a good time for him to go. He's been pretty serviceable for them again this year, but knows when it's time to go. Hearn, maybe 1 year too long, but he added to some list depth for them points this year, so they probably needed him there. Franklin, we all kind of saw that one.
Unfortunate, but it is what it is.
And obviously, we've already talked about Lynch, which is the sad one of the lot. The others are all kind of players that you go, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like Franklin, look, you and I obviously have talked many times this year about how we think he's gone one too many and he's just not quite as good, but provides a target.
And it was worth it. Like I feel like it was worth the gamble to have a year like Hawkins is having, or like you never know with those keys where they could just keep enough of it there
Yeah.
that they last one more year.
Considering they were in the grand final last year, I get it.
Yeah, absolutely, and he was a big part of why they made it. So I do get it, and their forward keys are young and developing, so they need.
I think he locked down with Marty, McLean, and McDonald.
Marty's looked really good this year.
I think all three of those have the potential. So,
Yeah, sorry, Dicko. I don't think he's going to Gold Coast. It's the weirdest call I've heard, and they've got so many forward options at Gold Coast. Like they've got
Casbolt's getting to the end.
Caswell's getting the end, but they've got Chol and King. Humphrey's a mid-sized
He'll be a midfielder.
option.
Ainsworth isn't exactly.
Yeah, but like I don't think that's the right. Lukosius is the key forward.
Yeah, he is now. Actually, you raise a good point.
So I don't think that's the right fit at all. Even if the AFL do let Gold Coast have an extra spot on their list. Very strange. The other one is, when are we going to get the round 24 fixture? It's round 21 this week.
I think it was after this week.
Is it?
I think.
Is it because the ladder's so close?
I think because there's so much going on this round that they're waiting till next week.
Yeah, I feel like it's rough because a lot of people travel for especially the last round, and like trying to make plans and accommodation and that kind of thing. It's going to be tricky for a lot of people to do it on as short notice as it's going to be now.
Look, flights already cost $1 gazillion these days, so
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
not going to
It's
really.
brutal. And I decided I wasn't going to go over that weekend now because I was going to try and match up because the Melbourne concert you're going to the one in Brisbane.
I'm going to Brisbane, yeah.
I was going to try and match up the one in Melbourne to Geelong playing Bulldogs,
Too hard.
but then it sold out. So
Rough.
so it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's all good. It's just too much money. I can't justify how much flights are.
I'm dirt poor. I'm
Yeah.
lucky I'm getting
I was thinking
a
about it. If they played-
hand me down.
If they played footy in Canada, I feel like they've got the balance of like, because they're in like the Americas, flights are cheaper over there, and it's not America, and also bands come near you, so like it's just a shame that everywhere else doesn't have the sports I like, like the two sports that I enjoy.
Canada ain't winning the cricket anytime
No,
soon.
I don't think so. Or the soccer apparently. Tilly, like they won the women's gold medal at the Olympics, last Olympics, and they lost 4-0 to Australia last night.
Not great.
Not ideal.
Shit happens, though.
Yeah, it does. It does. A Sam Kerrless Australia makes you 4-0 really goes under the category of shit happens.
Yeah.
We had a few injuries this week for all teams. Like Cherry going out for Carlton's a big one.
Not a
Hawkins
fan.
and Blitzstars for Geelong is huge.
That's a season ending.
Well, especially
potentially.
Blitzstars has been arguably the most important player this year, and he's out for the season. Like that might make finals if they make it. Hawkins will probably be back in a couple of weeks. They said it's a very light strain. But that's so huge. There's two of the most important pillars in the team.
Especially losing them before you play Port in a do-or-die game.
Lucky Port have no tall defenders with Ilya gone and Jonas in the VFL. So that's something. But it's not good. Maybe Shannon Neal plays. That'd be nice.
I'd like to see it.
Don't play Radicalier up forward. I would not like that.
What if
I'd rather they played Sam DeConing up forward and Lear in the back
They would
line.
probably just do Radicalier in Jack Henry in the forward line.
That actually makes a lot more sense.
That's probably what
that's
they'll
probably
do.
the sensible option, isn't it? Yeah, that's what they did at the start of the year.
Neil's not getting a game. Rip.
I want him to.
If he's supposedly the future and Hawkins is going to be there next year.
This is his time, right? It doesn't make sense. Obviously, Sydney's injury was Buddy, but
Yeah.
that's done and dusted now. Collingwood are just cruising along. They got nothing.
It was 11 games worth of injury.
Crazy.
And they still lost. Ha ha ha.
No, this has been one of those ones they do that's it's the loss they had to have. You know how teams love to say that? Despite the fact that like Geelong and Melbourne won their grand finals with like 10 plus game winning streaks. And
Geelong 16 in a row.
yeah, I think most teams that win or make grand finals go into the finals on a run of 5 or more.
I get it, because I would hate to come up first or second week in finals and realise that, that midfield transition game is stoppable. And it's very easy to
And you
stop.
only have to figure out how to get around it now.
So I get the call of the loss they had to have, but
But
It's whether or not-
it's so close to finals now, and
they can change it, or whether or not teams are like, oh wait, we can do that too.
we talked about how lucky they've been the last couple of weeks to get away with wins, and I think this week really showed that like when a team knows what they're doing, that you can't get away with you can't scrape the win. Port almost did it; they probably should have.
Yeah.
And Carlton did. So it's crazy. And last week was the craziest week for results. I got 2 right. I think that only 2 of the favourites won, and that wasn't the 2 I got right. I picked GWS to beat Bulldogs, but I picked Hawthorn to beat St Kilda, so I flipped that the wrong way around. But it caused chaos in that cluster again.
I think it's because there's so much form fluctuation going on right now. Like I think I heard something about Collingwood being like 17th ranked for scores inside 50 or something.
Yeah.
Transition, and I remember hearing that Essendon, despite being really good a few weeks ago, are like
they've just
bottom 4
dropped
ranked
it
team
completely.
right
And
now.
again, their first half looked great, and then they just
And then you've got 2 teams in GWS and Carlton who looked terrible and shot.
now they look like the 2 best teams in the comp.
They're 2 of the 3 informed teams.
Yeah, it's really disappointing that I was talking to someone about this while I was watching the cricket last night. It's really upsetting that the top 4 is now so set because of how the start of the season happened, because they don't look that much better than the rest of the teams now. I really feel like any team down to even 12th could beat teams in the top 4 on a good day. We just saw it happen. We saw Carlton, who were outside the 8 when the round started, beat Collingwood. We saw Port lose to Adelaide by a massive margin, who are 13th now?
Yep.
And then we saw Gold Coast, who are 12th, beat Brisbane. So it's a real shame to see. And then obviously Richmond looked really good against Melbourne. It's a real shame to see them so locked away.
Yeah.
Were they 2 games clear at 3,
I think
5?
things
top?
go right, someone could sneak into the 4.
Yeah, but
like
it's
a
so
GWS
unlikely
or maybe
now.
a Carlton if they just win everything, but it's not going to happen.
Like Melbourne, I don't think have a team inside the top 8 for the rest of the year.
St Kilda could
Carlton
do it too.
now that they're in there. But yeah, it's hard. It's so funny. We talked about it. We defended St Kilda very loudly on this show
The
a few weeks
season
ago.
that went wrong.
They're 5th now, comfortably, a game ahead.
Yeah.
They haven't dropped below 6th all year. A couple of weeks ago, there was AFL reports about how they'd done it all wrong, they'd messed everything up. They're still there. They almost beat Brisbane a few weeks ago in Brisbane. They've played a really good game against them.
They basically locked themselves away if they win this
They
week.
basically can't... Yeah, it's very unlikely they'll miss finals because of how much the teams in the bracket play each other now. Like, obviously, Carlton, GWS, Geelong... But GWS play both Carlton and Geelong before the end of the year. St Kilda play both Carlton and Geelong before the end of the year. So if they win one of those, they can't miss finals. That's basically it.
It's do or die for that 4 team. And I'm going to say those are the 4 team. Bulldogs look like they're pretty safe to make it.
Yep.
But GWS, Carlton, Geelong and St Kilda...
Well, Bulldogs after losing to GWS, not anymore at all.
I think they're the one that I'm pretty safe
Yeah.
on. But one of those 4 teams isn't making it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
It's probably Geelong after losing to Fremantle.
Probably.
But they're lucky they're coming up against the weakened Port now on the weekend. Obviously, Aaliyah and Jones have both been really good defensive cogs for them this year. Aaliyah especially.
Well, I mean, it was only a migraine. They should be playing again.
Only migraine. But then obviously the matchups against Collingwood, St Kilda and GWS are huge, especially considering Geelong can't beat GWS.
Doesn't seem that way.
So they have to really win all of
What a
those.
weird 2 bogey teams.
They have to win all of those now, if not all but Collingwood. So it is a weird 2 bogey teams. I feel like Geelong are the only team, well, maybe you could argue the Bulldogs have a bogey team in GWS, but they're usually around abouts. But I don't think any other team has the bogey teams of cheated worse than Fremantle.
Not good.
It's not good.
I think St Kilda's a weird one. I don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to play slow? Are they going to play fast? I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, there was a really
high
scoring game from them on the weekend again. And it's only against Hawthorn. The 2 games against Hawthorn this year, they've had massive
Their
scores.
last 3 games against Hawthorn, they've scored over 100.
Yeah, and
it's
against
just
everyone else,
Hawthorn.
they just... No. And maybe it's because Hawthorn plays such a corridor game that it allows St Kilda to do the same.
Rebound.
I heard I go back to Max Lynch when he was talking in the podcast. He was saying that Sam Mitchell's kind of philosophy on that is that there's no point trying to do what the good teams do when you've got so many kids. You might as well learn how to do the basics of football
first,
which is corridor, score, which is why we saw Hawthorn as one of the highest scoring teams from corridor earlier in the year, which was so inflated by the fact that other teams were beating them, but they were such high-scoring affairs that Hawthorn's average score from corridor was so high. And they do it really well. Like, you see them really challenge good teams with it. And that's so good to see, but that's what allows St Kilda to, despite their style of football, kick scores like that. But I'm still not sold on them. I think the team that plays them in finals will be happiest of the other sides to play. But I think they can still get it done against good teams. You look horrified. All right. Cool. Well,
sorry, I just had an existential crisis. How long have we been running?
That's all right. That's enough time. It's a short episode.
Short
we
episode.
can cut her off there.
Sorry, lads. I'll make up for it next week.
Yeah. I didn't have anything else to talk about anyway. That's the end of my notes. So we actually have a store now which you can find at backpocketau.com if you want to find some very silly merch. If you want to show off your Belcho spirit or have a Johnny Bairstow stubby holder.
Maybe you haven't just put our logo on a shirt or something.
Yeah, I'll do that as well. Our logo's on the back of the Belcho spirit shirt.
Okay, I guess that's fair. But I mean, just a back pocket shirt. I'd wear a back pocket shirt.
Yeah, I might make one. I'll make like a polo. We can sit here with professional boys and have back pocket polos. Anyway, find us at the Back Pocket AU on all socials, except for Threads, because they don't allow you to log into 2 accounts at once.
Really?
No, even though
Man, that's
Instagram
the
does.
most bare bones app ever.
It's insane. They were like, quick, make a Twitter. Thanks for joining us. We will see you, as always, next week.
Bye.